Hey everybody, this is your brother, Narada, Michael Walden. Welcome to All In, my podcast where we break down music, life, and love, interviews and conversations. Let's get into it.
I need a hat.
Yes, you do. Hi. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Mr. Peter Erskine to the show, you dig. How are you, brother?
That's a magnificent hat. That's wow.
Well, I'm wearing this in your honor because I just heard a lot of the jazz music, man, the Dr. And a lot of things you've been putting down, and you're just so out there that this has appropriate for interviewing you.
Oh, you're always so generous and kind, and thank you for the honor.
Yeah, man. I
You know,
want to.
you know, I was thinking about us
Yes.
um, when I was on the road with the Stan Kenton big band, and you had the um, impossible mission in life to follow Billy Cobham and the Mahavishnu Orchestra. And I'm still amazed to this day. But I remember when I got the recording, and I'm trying to imagine how someone could not only step into that role of being the drummer uh, in John McLaughlin's band, but also with Michael Tilson Thomas and the whole London Symphony Orchestra. I mean, that's one of the most demanding uh, recording situations imaginable. And boy, you just surprised and delighted all of us. But it was remarkable, and the only reason I included myself was because then I found myself not only following you, but uh, Alex Acuna and Chester Thompson and Eric Gravatt and a whole list of incredible drummers in Weather Report. Uh, so I don't mean to ask the first question, but uh, you know how did you do that? How do we do that? We find ourselves in an almost impossible situation. Um, uh, Sometimes it's not our fault. I mean, we got an opportunity, and then uh, uh, the people have you have a lot of people with expectations, and I'm sure you must have been aware of that, right?
Yes, and I'm so happy, Peter. Thank you for the first of all. That's so loving of you. I had insight with a beautiful guru named Sri Chinmoy, who helped me by just saying one small thing. He said, don't compete with others, just compete with yourself. Be the best
Yeah.
of you. And that just kind of freed me to just think about being the best me
Mm.
and appreciating the opportunities that were given. Because I prayed for opportunities like you've prayed. We've all prayed to be like with these great musicians, in our lifetime.
But
So,
how
yeah.
how old were you?
I was 21 for Apocalypse.
Wow,
Yeah, 21.
astonishing! Bravo.
Yeah, yeah. And how old were you for Weather Report?
I had just turned 24
Yeah.
when
hmm
they called me shortly after I'd met Jocko,
Yes.
and uh, the situation was come to LA because of my schedule with Maynard Ferguson's band. That's who I was touring with at that time.
Yes.
Uh, one day of recording, and I simply didn't have the confidence in myself and that kind of pressure cooker of the situation to fly to Los Angeles, go into the studio one day, and because I had uh, more studio experience maybe than you had, but I still considered it fairly scant. Um, uh, I've I had the opportunity to work with Michael Tilson Thomas and the London Symphony many years after you did, and quite a few years ago from now. It was an Elvis Costello project,
Wow.
and the setting was a ballet that Elvis had written based on A Midsummer Night's Dream. And so the Italian word for dream is Il Sogno. And a nice piece of music. When he contacted me about doing it, I suggested, I did a little demo he had this recording of a performance from Bologna, Italy, I think. And I said, why don't you record it, with the London Symphony? And I don't know what that bubble was. It just appeared. It took one of my
Yeah, I
hands.
saw that too. I was like, whoop.
Okay, I'll try to keep my arms. Yeah. So, and I said, let me record the drum tracks here in Los Angeles. It'll save the wear and tear of the travel, the expense, and we can really concentrate just on getting the. And he said, no, I liked what I saw on this TV show of you playing with the orchestra, so I want that kind of interaction to happen. And I don't know how it was for you, but I've played with enough orchestras, and there's not that much interaction. They just want to play it, record it, and either go home or go to their next gig or go have lunch or something. And of course, they save the tracks to be done with the drums till the very end of the whole project. So we basically had one chance to read it and one chance to record it, and that was about it. Yeah. At any rate, I found Michael to be he was quite sensitive to the thoughts and challenges that a drummer has in a situation like that. And luckily, he relayed my request to the orchestra, who was at the other end of Abbey Road. I said, "Can you please ask them to put their headphones on?"
Right. Yeah, Michael's something else. He's a great one.
Yeah,
he's a great one, and I'm really happy you had the opportunity to work with him as well.
Yeah, sweet guy.
And the orchestra. And the sound, the playbacks are awesome. The sound of hearing what you're going to do and hearing it all come off those speakers is like, whew,
Now, you were in the big room along with everyone else, right?
No, they tried that at first. When I first got there, they put me next to the strings and orchestra, and guess what? They said, no, this is not going to happen. So George Martin, Jeff Emmerich moved me across the hallway with the rhythm section, Mahavishnu, Gail Moran, Ralph Armstrong, and Jean-Luc Ponty in our little room, and I had a little camera. And a TV where I could look at Michael Tisdale with the orchestra, and a camera where he could see me, so we could see each other, and that was it. In headphones, so you're just really flying by the seat of your pants, kind of thing, and making magic, just making magic.
Positively, wow.
Yeah.
How long did you play with John?
I did 3 albums: Apocalypse, Vision of the Emerald Beyond in '75. And the last album would be Inner Worlds. Also, I think in '75, the last part of '75 as well. Yeah.
And was it after that you came out here to California, or?
Yes, I actually moved to San Francisco in '78, but I actually made the recording with Weatherport, the Black Market, in I think '75 as well. They're on the same time, just after the last Mahavishnu Orchestra album. And after the Jeff Beck Wired album, I was asked through Alfonso Johnson that could I come and jam, because he would be leaving the band, which he knew. And then I did Black Market Cannonball. Cannonball was done bringing Jaco in because they wanted a bass player. I knew Jaco from living in Miami. And I said, well, I don't really want to join the band at this time. I want to do more rock and roll with Tommy Bolin. I wanted to have that rock experience. But I know a bass player, and we flew in Jaco, and then we did Cannonball as his audition for the band. Wow. He stayed, and then made the Heavy Weather. So it's all history, and then you come on the scene. So it's like all history. But I will tell you one thing I want to share with you on that audition piece. In learning Cannonball, Joe Zawino, your man, our man, stopped right in the middle of teaching him and said, don't play that shit on my song. Because Jaco was doing all this incredible stuff, but Joe wanted no parts of it. And he forced Jaco to be the Jaco that we know, where it was, a focused Jaco.
Yeah.
And I mean, I saw it happen. Jaco just
now this is interesting because Jaco said the same thing to our Michael Brecker.
Oh,
When we were I think it was, yeah, the word of mouth, and I hung on every note that Michael played, and I loved every note that he played, and the more stuff he played, the more like thrilling it was for me. But Jocko stopped and said, "Hey, man, we're trying to play some R&B here. You can't play that incredible jazz stuff."
okay.
He might have been a little more derogatory, but it was
Okay.
stick to play some R&B, and that was good advice for Michael. The more I worked with Michael before I left New York, he was listening more and more to Grover Washington,
Hmm.
seeking out that, and he told me, he said, "I'm just amazed by how kind of pure and honest Grover Washington Jr. plays." And he said, "I want to get more of that."
Yeah.
So
You know who else is a disciple of Grover is Kenny G.
Kenny G.
Kenny G is a disciple of Grover. He may not admit that or talk about that too much, but because I worked with him, I know that he
Uh,
studied Grover. Grover's a he's a great he's a great one. He's a great one.
he was great.
Yeah. Also, I
Well,
got to say I love Junior Walker and the All Stars.
there you go.
And one more thing I got to say to you, Wayne Shorter can play that street funk too, brother. God, Lord, I didn't realize that until I started playing. He knows that street gutter stuff, not just all the eloquent jazz stuff, but the gutter stuff too. So hey, there's your guy.
Wayne, I think Wayne was always capable of bringing the most surprise
Yeah,
to the rest of us.
yeah.
Joe, I mean, that's interesting. I'm thinking on this story. Uh, I didn't want to start off the conversation about Joe,
Hmm.
but I had this thought before our Zoom session started.
Okay.
I thought, if Narada brings up Joe, what am I going to say? Oh, you mean that big bully?
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
Because he was. He was brilliant. Um, and I think sometimes when artists speak their mind, and they don't take the time to be kind. Um, but you've always been such a great teacher in that, and I think maybe inspired by thinking of you. Right before our Zoom call started, I got a call on my phone, and it was a toll-free number. So I figured, oh, it's probably some kind of telemarketing call.
Hmm.
And you can always tell there's that odd little pause and this funny little sound when they and the woman started her spiel. Um, and I said, excuse me. She was gone, and I said, I know you've got a job to do. And I said, you're doing it very well, but would it be possible to take this number off whatever list? And she stopped and she said, wow. She said, thank you for being so kind.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because the temptation is always to be as rude as possible.
Yes.
The phone calls interrupted, whatever it is.
Yes.
But yeah, I think we can agree. World needs more kindness from all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen. 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 But I do want to hear the story on Joe you were about to tell. I thought you were going to say something about Joe.
No, that's just a general statement. He was a bully.
Okay. Well, tell us some more about Joe because here is a great one. A bully, yes, sometimes true, and also so sensitive at the same time. So incredibly sensitive at the same time. Anything you want to say about that?
Well, it's a funny story. Um, well, okay, so we were talking about Billy,
Yes.
and I don't know if there was some antipathy or something between Jocko and Billy. I sense that there may have been that I'm not aware of, but although when I first joined the band
Hmm.
and I'm flown out to LA, and I'm staying in the same hospital, the hospital, Freudian slip,
I love
same
it.
hotel.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Oh goodness. The same hotel where Jocko liked to stay, and it was a place called the Sunset Marquis.
I know it very well.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Just down the road from like the Roxy and all those clubs on Sunset.
Mhm.
And I was under the impression that I would be meeting Jocko and we'd have dinner or something. He's nowhere to be found. So, all right. I see him the next day and he apologized for, I'm sorry. I didn't see you last night. I was at the Roxy and I was there. Stanley Clark was with me and a whole bunch of CBS artists. Uh, this when Billy had an album coming out on CBS. And so for this record release party, Billy's band's playing at the Roxy, and Jocko is seated with other CBS artists at this long table. And there are bowls of fruit and with pecans and grapes and raisins and all these kinds of things. And Jocko told me, and I didn't know whether it was true or not. Billy's playing a solo, and he said, "Yeah, me and Stanley we're pulling like grapes out of this fruit basket, and we're throwing them up to see if we can, hit one of Billy's sticks." So they were throwing things up at the stage during Billy's solo. That was the story Jocko told me,
Wow.
to try to hit the Billy sticks. And years later, I saw Stanley Clark. I said, "Stanley, I've always wanted to ask you if this was true." And as I get about halfway in, he goes, "Yeah, I'm afraid it's true. We were both doing that." So,
Mhm.
so anyway, Billy had been a very profound influence on my drumming, as just about everyone in my generation.
Absolutely. God bless you for saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
and
Absolutely.
I, I got to see him play live several times, and uh, I'm in Weather Report for a bit, and and whatever influence Billy had didn't have a chance quite to come through yet in the music we were playing and the approach I was taking. But I'm in the band now for a good 2 or 3 months, and we're in Europe, and we have an encore. And the band hadn't really done that many encores. We had a show, and it was long, and the whole lights and all this stuff. And when it finished, it was done. But they decided to do an encore. We were in Copenhagen, and we're playing a tune of Wayne's "Elegant People."
Mhm. Love that song, by the way.
Right, right,
Yeah.
and lots of open pastures for Billy kind of things if one wanted to do that, and I did on this particular evening. I just thought, hey, I get a pass, I get a green light, I'll do what I want. And so it was very Cobham-esque what I played. It was completely identifiable. It was just an outright kind of thing,
Mhm.
and I was having fun.
Mhm.
We take our bows. I go off stage right. Joe and Jocko were waiting for me. They grabbed me like this, pushed me up against the wall, but just right off stage, and got within inches of my face. And I forget which one of them said, "May I use the flowery language on our podcast?"
Well,
Uh,
we can always add it if we want to, you know. So go ahead. Yeah.
okay. So they got right up. They said, "If you ever play like that motherfucker again, we'll kill you."
Oh, I see.
And 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 I told the story, a few times, and um, I think at some point it had gotten back to Billy, and as stories have a way of doing, they morph, they change. And one or two times when I saw Billy, I felt a very odd vibe from him. So I think we were finally able to clear that up. That I said it was just because I had so much uh, respect and affection for you musically as a drummer,
Yes.
and the point of that really was that they wanted me to be my own musician, not to be playing like someone else.
Mhm.
Um, and Billy was, it wasn't hard to play like Billy if you wanted to. To play like Alex was tricky, because there was just a whole set of ingredients and his background that being this drummer from New Jersey, I just couldn't hope to, no matter how much different kinds of music I listened to. And I still can't play like Alex. I can't play like Jack DeJohnette. I can't play like you. I can play a little bit like Billy, but I'm not going to push my luck.
Yeah.
So, anyway, a couple years later, the band is we're on tour in Europe again, and they had modified the lighting and sound rig. The band was traveling with its own lights and sound, and the lights hung lower than the previous setup, and the lighting guy is getting more. They call them specials. He had all these drum specials and this, that, and by the end of the show, and these were long shows, and the band was loud. We're playing fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting really hot up there, and I've always had pretty good stamina and power, but I'm running out of steam,
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought it would be a good idea. I suggested to Joe, look, Joe, if I'm getting near the end of my power, can we agree if I give you the high sign? Boom, we'll because these vamps are going on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe, all I get from him is, uh-huh, So of course that night we're doing it's this tune called Badia, which and Boogie Woogie Waltz, and Jocko and I are doing this double time thing, and it's exciting, but it's going on for a very long time. And I look at Joe like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
can we agree to stop this? And Joe just looks at me and kind of smiles and leans in.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in for another cycle repeat, which is however long that's going to take, but at this speed and that volume. And I felt betrayed, like a little bit sabotaged up there, because I was just about to go into Afterburners,
Yeah.
and now I got to keep playing.
Yes.
So my reaction was very emotional, and one born of anger.
Okay.
And I'm hitting the snare drum, and I'm still playing the beat, but Joe signals, okay, he's satisfied, he won. Now we end.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, no, not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So the lighting designer is quite confused because I'm still playing and I'm hitting the snare drum. Son of a, and I wasn't being a good sideman. I mean, the concert was supposed to be over, and I kept playing.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear, wow, this actually sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
What it is I'm doing. All of a sudden, I sense a presence, and inches away, Zavanel has climbed up onto the drum riser.
Wow.
His like just toes, the ball of his foot underneath the bass drum. Half of his shoes hanging off in midair, about 6 feet up. And when I opened my eyes, now I thought maybe he's gonna punch me,
Mm-hmm.
and instead he had this look of complete glee, almost like ecstasy.
Yeah.
Wow, and when we make this eye contact, he goes, yeah, 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 yeah. And he turns around, he pumps his fist up in the air, and he jumps off.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So now I'm confused. I have no idea what's just happened. I finish. He did say one thing to me. He said, thank you. And I still wasn't sure what that meant. So the next day, we're sound checking. We set up uh, in the afternoon, and the manager comes up to me and says, "Peter, Joe would like a word with you."
Mhm.
So I figure, well, all right, gonna get fired.
Mhm.
And I was still half in that mode. And I walk into the dressing room, and there's the entire band, the entire crew, and they hand me a one of those Dixie paper cups.
Mhm.
Got a shot of cognac, and I grab it, and Zavanel turns to everyone and goes, "Everybody, last night Peter graduated." So that it took that for me to finally figure out how to become my own person, and it took a little bit of rebelling, just like the teenager son has to do, kind of to the father. So yeah, Joe could be a very good teacher. And maybe that story is a good example of that.
Yes, yes. And how do you feel about it now, looking back at it?
I'm grateful for it. I mean, sometimes when I used to tell the story, I would get a little bit verklempt,
Yeah.
you know, like, wow, but since I started therapy, that's not a problem.
Mhm.
So,
Beautiful. Yeah, man.
um, yeah, it's uh, Zavano came from, a very different time and place, not even factoring in post-war Vienna.
Right. Austria.
Um, but the beboppers were pretty tough characters.
Mhm.
And my favorite moments um, were when uh, Joe would be fielding sometimes. Not sure if it was jealousy. I think sometimes some of the older jazz guys felt that Weather Report was upsetting the jazz economics because the band was a completely different level of production, and a lot of players felt like, hey, Weather Report's going to be taking too much of this little bit of pie that we all got to share. And Joe would always take as much time as was possible, and with love and respect, say, hey, it's not that different what we're doing, and this is going to be good for all of us.
Mhm.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Although sometimes he, with his usual braggadocio, we're the best this or we're the best that, and that started going in one ear and out the other after a
Mhm.
while.
Mhm.
Friends used to ask me when I was getting ready to move to New York, and they would run into either Jocko or Joe, and they, because of the chest thumping
Yeah.
macho thing.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, don't, they're just talk.
Mhm. Okay. Well, what about, I got to ask you about, because I love him so much too, and I know you spent quality time, and he's not with us in the physical world, the great Wayne Shorter. Just give us some insight about playing with him as a drummer, you being the great one and he being the great one on the sax. Whatever you want to say about, his great spirit, and, he's listening to us. He might have been that orb that flew through the room a moment ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Wayne, uh, I go back to the evening I met all three. I met Zavano when I was 7 years old at a summer music camp, and I met Jocko a year or two prior when he came and heard me play. Uh, Wayne was the kindest.
Hmm.
He was just the nicest man, um, and his points of reference were uh, uh, frankly, childlike sometimes, kind of magical, whimsical. Um, but I'll tell you a story about Wade, and uh, I think this explains him maybe best.
Okay.
We were in Florida for the very solemn and unhappy occasion of attending Jocko's funeral
Yes.
after he'd been beaten and had died in the hospital. We I flew in from LA and rented a car and went straight to a hotel where I knew some of the other crew members that I think, where are you going to be? And it was close to the church. I got there a little bit late, but in time to catch a small amount of the service. And then Joe and Wayne, who were both pallbearers of the coffin, along with others, outside the church. And then there was going to be this very long drive to the cemetery. This was not located close to the church. And it's a surreal thing because you can't believe it's happened. You're in this hot Florida sun, and you know, I've been flying all night, so I'm a little bit tired. And you're in this long procession, and there's speeding police motorcycles that are blocking the roads, you know, because we're on this Florida kind of highway. And so that's all happening. So we're just following the car in front of us, which is following the car in front of them, and these motorcycles. And Joe said, "Do you have a car?" And I said, "Yeah." You know, Joe and Wayne and I all hugged him, and he said, "Can Wayne and I ride with you?" I said, "Of course." So I'm driving. Zavano's in the seat beside me, you know, over by the window, and Wayne is in the back seat.
Mhm.
And the conversation is kind of, oh, you know, what a shame, what a tragedy. I sure missed the guy.
Mhm.
This kind of thing. Wayne hasn't said anything. And we go, maybe it's been almost a half hour. And finally, Wayne, the first thing Wayne said was, he said, "Hey, Joe." Joe turns around and goes, "Yeah?" And Wayne said, "What do you really think of Sade?"
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Mhm.
and I'm, oh. And Joe says, "I think she does the most with what she has."
Mhm.
And Wayne said, "Yeah, yeah, me too."
Mhm.
And I just always took that it was his way of, I think it's okay for us to change the subject now,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yes.
Um, and the only other story that comes to mind was many years later, uh, Wayne was living in his last home was in the Hollywood Hills. In the old days, Wayne had a home in the Hollywood Hills, Donna Maria Drive, that I think that was the name of it, that faced the valley,
Mhm.
Ice View. This home faced Hollywood. It was on that side of the mountain. And uh, those homes are not easy to get to. A lot of, you know, the roads just curve, winding back and forth, um, and not convenient. But the view was good. And I'm sitting with Wayne in his kitchen, and I say something dumb like, "Wow, great house, Wayne." He said, "Thanks. Uh, beautiful view, huh?
Mhm.
You like the view or something?" Something dumb. And
Okay.
he goes, "Yeah." And then I said, "Well, but what do you do if you need butter?" And he genuinely, you know, he looked puzzled. He looked at me and he looked back at his refrigerator and he looked back at me and he said, "Who needs butter?"
Okay. Okay. Oh, needs butter. All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you got a point, you know.
Yeah. All right.
So Wayne, his playing, everything about him was always kind of a surprise. That, you know, he e- e- everything about him just defied expectation. Uh, um, and I wish I'd gotten to know him better. Uh, we were I was very comfortable around him. I mean, he was very approachable, and but he when we toured, he liked to spend time in his room. And Joe Jocko and I would always be like, hey, let's meet in the lobby in 5 minutes, throw our bags or whatever, come down. We'd want to hit the streets.
Mhm.
We're always let's find a restaurant, let's find a place, let's do whatever. So we were sort of a three musketeers most of the time.
Yes.
And then Jocko and Joe, because of this odd father-son dynamic that was playing out. There was always more drama and more variability ultimately with the two of them. And then, I was relatively, I was calmer and generally more sane. I
Yes.
think Joe
Yes.
felt he could talk to me much of the time.
Yes. Peter, hold on 1 second. I want to check one thing with this computer. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Hey, Jim. Give me 1 second, Peter. I'll be right with you.
Okay.
I want to make sure this is okay here. I see a little thing on the computer. Come just double check the software update here. See if they were okay for filming.
It says on my screen you're recording.
Yeah,
You
we're
good?
good. We are recording both sides. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Peter, let me tell you, man. I also had a chance to see you live. I think it's my first time seeing you play live, quite frankly. And you were at one of the Grammy after parties,
Ah,
and you were burning. You were burning so intently, Peter, that I had to come and stand right in front of you. But you may not have even seen me because you were really out there.
I remember. I remember.
And you were out there so incredible, and I just had to stand and just enjoy the glory of watching you. Because you have something that I so admire, which is great time, where you can get lost in the time. You can get lost in your own time. You can get lost in your own ability of the swing feeling being so intense, like we'd equate to Elvin Jones, lost in his swing. You were so lost in your swing. It made the whole party just feel it, the emotion of it.
Well,
I
I
want
remember.
to make sure I tell you that.
Well, thank you. The bass player gets the lion's share of credit. That was the late great Dave Carpenter. Um, I wonder if you've ever experienced this. Uh, Dave played with Buddy Rich back in the day,
Okay.
and the one job the bass player had on Buddy's band was they had to watch the ride cymbal.
Absolutely. Okay.
Had to watch the ride cymbal, and uh, and Dave would tell me stories, and I played with a bass player. This was up in Stanford. It was at this jazz camp, and the two of us were paired with Kenny Burrell.
Mhm.
So and this guy, I couldn't read his vibe. I think he was shy, but uh, he was an Asian bass player. His name is David Wong. I'd not played with him, and we're like 6 bars into this tune, and I know I want to give this guy a hug.
Oh, I see. You felt him, huh?
Oh, immediately, and why does this feel so good? And I look at him, and I can see he's looking at the tip of my stick on the ride cymbal,
Mhm.
and I went, wow. And I think I said, man, it feels so good. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know you. Where are you from? Who have you played with? And he said, well, I work with Roy Haynes. And I went, of course.
Mhm.
That's where you learn
Mhm.
to looking at the ride cymbal. Right? And
Yes.
he laughed. He went, yeah, actually. And I went, that explains everything.
Yes, brother. Well, let me, can I ask, just I want to kind of get in on you just for a second. First of all, just tell me again, where are you from? What was the earliest thing that just knocked you flat to make you who you are? Just, da-da-da. Yeah.
I'm from New Jersey. I grew up between the Atlantic City and Ocean City. I was inland a few miles, but Atlantic City had a place called the Steel Pier, and a lot of bands played there. It's the first time I saw Billy live with Dreams. They were playing
Oh,
this ballroom out at the end of this pier. Um, and I got to meet Louis Hayes when I was very young, but
ooh,
the drummer who first was Art Blakey,
okay.
you know, and my dad took me to see him, and I thought I was going to be like some Paul Bunyan, like a 14-foot man because of the power, even on records, and I didn't even understand how records work, but it's just the sound that came out. That this guy, he must be a giant, and he metaphorically was a giant. Um, but in physical stature, he was kind of a short guy. And I was shocked when I saw him on the sidewalk outside. I think it was the Showboat Lounge in Philadelphia. They had I think it was a Sunday matinee um, where you could bring underage. Uh, and I guess now that I knew I wanted to live the jazz life, despite the fact that I'd never smelled anything like the way a jazz club smelled on a Sunday afternoon.
Hmm. But
Not
at
good.
that time in your life, how old would you be when you met Art Blakey?
Man,
What's that?
I've been 8 or 9, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, okay,
Um, but I went to these summer jazz camps starting at the age of 7,
okay.
and there were drummers like Louis Hayes, Alan Dawson, Ron Carter was playing bass, and then Jimmy Garrison. And the last camp I went to, um, heady stuff. Getting to Oliver Nelson, I played in his band as a kid. Um, and just the amount of love and how much these educators and musicians would give
Mm-hmm.
in terms of not only knowledge but just encouragement,
Mm-hmm.
advice, uh, make you feel like okay, you have a right to be at this instrument, playing this music, and giving it your best shot. Um, that's just so important. And if I learned anything from that, I think when I was teaching at USC, I retired uh, at the end of last spring. But I was there for 20 years, and what I always tried to uh, make my students feel is that you're in a safe place. That we mistakes are good. This is how we learn. We want to make mistakes, and mistakes are okay. Uh, when I was when I first went on the road, and I was 18 with the Kenton band, and I was aware of all the drummers. What, why did Stan hire that kid?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That kind of thing, and I tried to do my best, and I knew I had a lot to learn. But you develop a little bit of a guard or a shield, and so I wasn't in the habit. I always gave it up to my elders.
Yes, that's right.
Elders, total respect.
That's right.
Peer group, maybe not so much. And so we fast forward years later, and my son came home. He was studying bass at the time. He's now a very busy film and video editor here in Hollywood. But uh, he came home and he said, "Hey, Dad, could we talk?" And I'm thinking, I thought we already had that conversation, but okay. I said, "Do you want some privacy?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah, please." So I said, "Well, we'll go back to studio." So we came back here. It's my 2-car garage turned studio.
Okay.
And I said, "What's up?" And he takes a second. He goes, "Well, my friend so and so came up to me and said, 'No offense, dude, but Jeff Tain Watts is a better drummer than your old man.'"
Hmm.
And I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Dad, no." And I said, He is. I mean, Jeff's great. He can do all sorts of things I can't do. And I said, but you're more subtle, right? I said, it depends who you ask, but I said, don't worry, your dad's doing okay. You know. So anyway, shortly after that, I'm on tour, and it was like the one flight of the whole tour that we somehow were in business class on SNS. And we're in Copenhagen, so we go to the lounge. And there's Branford Marsalis's band, and there's Jeff Tane Watts. And hey, so we give each other the hug. I said, check this out. So I tell him the story. And he looks at me, and when I get to the part where I say, yeah, it's better. He said, get the hell out of here. Except he didn't say hell. And I said, no, man, you are. And gave him a hug. Now, I had never done this.
I see.
And so we said our goodbyes. Now we got that long walk to the gate, whatever. And I felt a lightness I'd never experienced before. This somehow, wow, when you give it up, you get so much more.
Wow, man. Wow.
Kind of blowing my mind, right? So, wow, this is amazing. So 2-3 days later, we're in Munich, sound checking. I turn to my left, there's Jeff. Now, normally, if you're a drummer in a jazz band and you're sound checking, you got Jeff Tane Watts 12 feet away, you're going to be self-conscious, right? And I'm just like, what a trip, man. Guy could be taking a nap, going to the zoo. I don't know. It's his day off. He's here. What an honor. What a treat. How much fun. Hey, Jeff, man, check out this cymbal. And we're having fun. So that night, and Chick Corea was in the house, a whole bunch. It's a jazz festival in Munich that's in the basement of the hotel, the Bayerischer Hof, and it's a nice series of concerts. And so any given concert, there'll be some other musicians. And one of the other musicians in the band was so self-conscious, and the lights were wrong, and the monitors weren't good, and just having a terrible time. And I'm having a ball. I'm like, wee. All because I didn't worry where I ranked, and that was fun. And so it's that somehow, if we can learn how to do that, and you're uniquely lucky because you did have a guru. You had someone to pass along this advice, and the rest of us are just listening to whatever noise we're listening to inside our own heads, or whatever. I mean, I think eventually we all find the voice of someone to guide us, of some power or something.
Absolutely. I love your story, man. That is so beautiful.
Isn't that fun?
And I really love that Jeff was so kind about it, and Jeff was so humble, which
Yeah.
I don't know him as you do, but I love this beautiful story, and it actually made me tear up.
He's completely humble.
Yeah.
And when push came to shove during the lockdown, he was one of the guys that stepped right up and said, let me come talk to your students, on Zoom.
Okay. I want to say something. You've gone over some names that are really deep to me, and I want to make sure that going forward on the show, that those who watch the show take time to appreciate. You mentioned Lewis Hayes. When I was little, Lewis Hayes would be 18 years old. When I was maybe 5 or 6, like you, when we were little. His album with Horace Silver called Senior Blues. What he plays on that album is just eternity.
I'm going to confess ignorance. Maybe I failed Jazz 101, but all my Lewis exposure was Cannonball.
Yes, okay, that's later. Yeah, that too. Okay, so I have to just
All right,
tell you.
I got a name for you.
Okay.
Celebrate Greatness and Lewis Hayes.
Yeah.
is on the top pedestal of
Yeah,
greatness.
yeah.
Let's bring up someone whose name doesn't get mentioned enough. You
Okay,
ready for this?
go ahead.
Eddie Marshall.
I love him. With the
Isn't he
fourth
wonderful?
way, with the fourth way, I got hip to him with Mike Knock. I'm in college, and we have a teacher. I'm forgetting his name now, but he brought me the Mike Knock fourth way record to hear Eddie, and that was revolutionary. So absolutely,
You're one of the few musicians I know that had that same experience. They
okay.
were the first fusion band.
Yes, right. Absolutely, absolutely true.
And I was familiar with him from a recording with Toshiko Akiyoshi and Charlie Mariano
Okay,
way back in the early 60s he made,
okay.
63 or even before. And Eddie Marshall struck me as like he was kind of the missing link between Philly Joe and Tony.
Hmm.
Like, I think this guy, and Lewis was still a little more hard bop, but Eddie was leaning already towards this thing that that's why when the fourth way, it didn't surprise me at all. It made total sense.
Yes,
It was
very
like,
cool, very cool.
oh, this is fun.
The fourth way hit me around the same time as an album by Freddie Hubbard, First Light with Jack DeJohnette. That whole period of bringing that kind of a funk to the jazz, the new way was something I was like,
Weren't we
yeah.
lucky we got to hear that? And then, what, 17-year-old Lenny White
Okay, there you go. Yeah, sure.
was
But I want to
standing
say
up.
I want to say one more thing because you passed early in the earlier conversation. You mentioned Art Blakey. I want to say one thing about him, if you don't mind, because
Oh,
there's an album that made me feel E equals MC square, where he played drums with Jimmy Smith called The Sermon.
mm,
And on The Sermon, it's like 20 minutes long. But Art Blakey plays a rock 2 and 4 the whole way. I think only two drum fills the whole song. But he's playing ching, gang, ching, gang, ching.
yeah.
And for me to hear a blues backbeat in the jazz setting was revolutionary. It was like, this is better than playing all kind of busy jazz, just this backbeat.
Yeah.
And that was Art Blakey. So he knew that way back then, in the late 59, I think it was. So I have to give him a lot of love, this
Earl
guy, man.
Palmer.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were the two guys that figured that one out.
yeah.
Yeah, my parents got me two Christmas presents one year. Um, and one of them was you remember slot cars?
Yes.
You plug the track in and it had electric current that ran through it.
Yeah.
And that'd be fun for about 45 seconds, and then all right, what else does it do? Nothing.
Okay. Okay.
So I got this slot car, and then my dad had set it all up. So I come down Christmas morning. Wow, the Art Blakey record, and the slot car did not see any action once I put that Art Blakey record on, and it was the African Drum Ensemble, and there was a tune in Love There Is Happiness. That's I think the translation. Um, and it's kind of a 6/8 do 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 do. Very nice melody. Yusef Lateef is playing. Ahmad Abdul Malik is playing bass. It's a great band. All these percussionists, and Art Blakey plays a solo that pardon my singing, but it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Over and over. This is pretty much the whole solo. And it's I think one of the greatest solos I've ever heard because it's so simple. It's so powerful. And somehow I think that maybe that's why Wayne and I kind of, because Wayne liked that element of my playing. He liked, I could hit a bass drum and a cymbal because I was instructed by listening to Art Blakey do it.
Wow.
Kind of velocity, I think Wayne liked because my swing sense was okay. It's not easy to swing that loud. That was for me. That was the challenge, and ultimately, I just came to terms with, the power thing is fine, but I don't have the chops to sustain it. So I'm happier. That's like the jazz thing. I'm happier for the most part at a lower dynamic level. And you know what? If I turn this way,
Hmm.
I get no. Well, you see that yellow drum behind me?
The yellow drum. Yeah, I do. Now I do. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's a kind of a gold satin
Yeah.
flame
Hmm.
Slingerland. Now I've got a four-piece Slingerland kit from the mid '60s.
Okay.
Found um, online. Is a collector named Edward Tucker. He's this guy. He's a really great collector of Slingerland drums. Um, and so that's my big joy now. And you have a real studio behind you. I've got a garage studio, but um, here's my secret to anyone that has a small room to play in.
Okay.
Um, I have a 22-inch bass drum that's only 10 inches deep, and it doesn't overpower the space.
Wow.
It
Okay.
chords so nicely in here.
Okay.
So that's and just right over here, this camera. Um, so the engineer wears headphones. It's a one room operation. But I got really lucky. It's a good sounding room.
Wow.
Uh, been we moved to Santa Monica 37 years ago, almost 38 years ago.
Wow.
So we've been here ever since, and I've spent a lot of time over the years in this room, and happy to spend time in this room with you.
Thank you, brother. I'll come down and see you. I'd love to. And you
Yeah.
come visit me too at Tarpan Studios.
So where are you?
We're in San Rafael, not far from San Quentin. Right across the road is San Quentin.
Oh man, I was goodness gracious, I was just up there. We did 3 albums
Okay.
in 1 week at Skywalker.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and and that incredible drum shop in San Rafael.
Uh-huh.
The
Okay.
name of
Yeah.
it. You know that they've got all the
Yeah.
vintage drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good restaurants there too.
Okay. Okay.
It's San Rafael. Yeah, it's a nice part of the world. I will definitely let you know the next time I'm up north, and please do let me know when you come down south
Thank you, Pete.
to
Peter,
pick
man,
up another one of your. You're probably going to come down here to get another one of your Grammys.
that's okay.
All right.
Peter, um, in wrapping up our beautiful conversation, let all the fans, people know what's on your heart and what you want to share with us as we go
Well, I'm going to
forward.
share this because I
Okay.
just saw this up on my bulletin board.
Okay.
Jocko drew this in just scant seconds. Uh, he drew that of me a long time ago.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh, you got to imagine I had hair back then.
You had hair and a nice mustache coming around with it. Darker.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. So what's on my heart?
Yeah.
Um, I feel very grateful to have shared this time with you.
Thank you, Pete.
I didn't mean to make this opportunity to have a little love fest, but I have to be honest that every time I've met you, um, I've been taken aback in a very nice way by your humility and yeah, an abundance of kind of really an outpouring of love that you've always shown, and I wanted just to thank you for that because it really, you're a big guy in this world of music, and yet you've always just been very down to earth, and I've always loved that about you, and I we're getting up there. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 70 now, and I'm glad to look that we still get to do what we love to do.
Right. Beautiful. That's it, man. That is it.
And vote, everybody.
Okay, right. Vote, vote, vote.
Okay.
Peter, man, all my love to you, man. I'm so happy you have the experience that you could share with us on Joe, Wayne, Jocko, who was brilliant,
Yeah.
and left us too soon, but so
And you
brilliant.
played. Holy cow! I forgot. you're on Come On, Come Over. This is unbelievable. Your drumming on that is, in fact, going back to my teaching at USC, that, the 2/16ths, that is not easy to do when you start the 16ths on the downbeat.
Yeah.
Well, I never found it easy. I mean, you're effortless with it, but that with every student, that was part of our lessons. Part of one semester would be trying to play this beat the way you did.
So you're saying when you first started?
No, you
Is that
do.
what you're saying?
Instead of if you do a 2/16ths and the first 16th is a pickup.
Yeah.
It's a completely different leg motion for most of us, as opposed to if it's a da-da.
Okay.
It's like a different kind of a tap dance thing.
Okay.
Da-da, as opposed to da-da.
Okay.
And so I always turn to you for that. I say, okay, I got to do it the way he does that.
I love it. I love it. I would never know that. Thank you.
Really? You're a natural.
Okay, man. You too, brother. Well, listen,
Okay.
man. I'll hook up with you. Thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been enjoying Peter Erskine and his incredible wisdom in this music world that we live. I'm so happy you keep alive these great legends like the Kenny Burrell you mentioned, all these great people. You've worked with Stan Kenton and all these great people. So, and also we want to share a lot of love for your Dr. Am I saying correctly? Dr.
Like Dr. like drum.
Dr. Yeah, okay. It's so cool. It's so cool. What a great album you put together. Yeah. So,
That was a fellow Northern California, a director named Jack Fletcher. He gave me that whole idea. He said, I got it. You're Dr. And
yeah.
there you go.
And my friend Alan Pasqua from Tony Williams is on the keyboard, some stuff.
Yeah.
He's incredible. God bless you, man. Wow.
And John Beasley, and we got a lot of good players down here. So I know you do up north as well.
Yeah. What's the guy's I got to ask you, the organ player.
I am coming to you. Alan Pasqua.
Yeah.
Dark Oles and Bob Minster. We're going to play at the SF Jazz Keys.
Oh, okay.
In July, mid-July, we'll be there for 2 nights.
I'm gone between the July 20th and 27th. If it's either side of those, I'm around here.
Might be gone, but if this airs before that time, then I hope maybe some folks will come check it out. Anyway, PeterErskine.com. That reminds me, I better
man, give me all the information. We'll
update my schedule. And Dr. Alan and I have a jazz trio, piano trio. John Beasley is the Dr. guy.
Yeah.
So I will pass along your kind words to both of them.
Wow, man. Alan and I did a thing for Alan Holdsworth. And that's when I had a chance to play with your cat, Alan.
Was that the CTI?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And he was your boy, your guy he's something else, man. He's something else.
We met in 1971 at a jam session at Indiana University, and we've been friends ever since.
Okay.
So,
Alan Pasqua.
right.
All right. I love you. Thank you for your love today.
All right.
Okay. Peace out.
See ya.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to our All In podcast. If you enjoy the show, please follow, like, and subscribe on our socials: YouTube, Official Narada Instagram, Official Narada, one word, and All In with Narada Michael Walden on Apple Music, Spotify, and more. Thank you so very much.